So, uh, welcome. This is history, I guess, and we're going over the events of World War One today. I hope I got everything right in this one, honestly. Feel free to pray with me here because, I don't think you'll be failing that history test, but only time will tell, right? We can hope that you don't, but, you know. Alright, fuck it. Let's just start. All right, we're doing this really short, really sweet, really simple. All right, cuz I know if you're looking at this video, you're either completely fucking bored or you're up like really late trying to find something for that high school history test on World War 1 or anything really. So, we're going to get started on chapter 1, which is just the start of World War 1. Let's go ahead and get started. Basically, World War One started because Europe was full of tension. Bunch of shit was going down. Countries were forming alliances for like no reason, really, right? They were essentially competing to expand with each other. And national pride, that was another big, not even a big, it was a massive part of it. National pride was like, I don't know, countries just wanted to flex pretty much, right? But June 28th, 1914, you got to keep this date in mind, especially if you're studying for something. The Archduke of Austria-Hungary, Franz Ferdinand, got executed. Well, assassinated, actually, not executed. Don't put that in your paper. June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary got assassinated. Set off a chain reaction. The dude that he got assassinated by was Serbian, by the way. And Austria-Hungary was backed by Germany around this time. So they basically, both of them, because they were allied, they both got pissed at Serbia. So they were like, it's essentially like sending a cease and desist letter to another country. That's what it is. And Serbia didn't go with all the demands. So Austria-Hungary literally declared war July 28th. Literally just said, fuck you guys, we're going to war. July 28th, 1914. Keep that in mind. It didn't take that long for the entire continent to be just completely dragged into all the conflict and shit. It was just, a massive jumble of garbage. Russia just decided to help Serbia for some reason, probably because, like, Serbian people and Russian people are, like, the same thing, in my eyes, I guess. Basically, Russia started mobilizing to help Serbia, and Germany was like, we don't like that at all. So Germany declared war on Russia on August 1st, 1914. Then then Germany decided to declare war on France for some reason. France had like nothing to do with this. Germany had this plan called the Schlieffen Plan. I don't know how to pronounce that really, but to pretty much just destroy France by going through Belgium. And Germany invading Belgium brought Britain into the war on August 4th, 1914. And, everyone thought the war would be like hella quick and would be really short, really simple, really sweet. Well, I don't think sweet's the terminology to use for a war. The war was just a shit show at this point. You had the entire continent of Europe pretty much just fighting over this dude getting assassinated, which, I mean, he was a big deal, obviously, but, the Battle of Marne in September of 1914 literally just, like, completely stopped Germany from overtaking Paris, which I guess they really wanted to do. And this is where, trench warfare really, like, got its thing. And this is the Western Front, right? So neither side could really gain any ground whatsoever. And in East Germany, like, or not Eastern Germany, my bad, just in the East in general, Germany and Russia were really duking it out over there. And in the Battle of Tannenberg, fucking Germany just completely destroyed Russia overall, right? And the war wasn't at this point. This is still 1914, right? You know, everybody was like, hey, we want a piece of whatever they're doing over there. Japan was like, yo, I want to do something like this. I want to have fun in the war. And Japan joined the Allied forces, which are pretty much everyone that's against Germany at this point. And the Ottoman Empire joined Central Powers, which Germany's side. Literally just opening new battlefronts for everyone to just kill each other. That's the easiest way to explain it. The war was literally everywhere by this point. Like, everyone knew about it, and this was like, you gotta keep in mind, war started in July. By the time that, like, around November, December-ish, literally the entire world knew about the war that was going on. And this is before fucking just technology in general. You had, like, messenger pigeons and shit. I don't know if that's accurate, but, you know. Yeah, the war was a shit show by 1914. That's all you need to know. Chapter 2, this is going to be the easiest one, the most simple one to listen to. It's really basic. It was pretty much just a stalemate, and the war spread a little bit, but it wasn't really that big. So, in 1915, right, war was in a complete stalemate. Western Front, right, which was pretty much where the war had settled in to a stalemate. Trench warfare, that was a massive thing. You know, you'll see, like, if you look it up, you'll see, like, barbed wire everywhere, deep trenches, machine guns, artillery, all that. And that made it really difficult for each side to make, like, massive moves and gain ground on each other, which, I mean, they couldn't really do in the first place, but this just made it even harder. And each, like, actual big battle where they tried to gain ground on each other or tried anything like that, they were deadly. Like, you would have been killed off if you were a part of those, pretty much. And right at the time of this certain battle that I have it written down, but I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll flash it up on screen or something. Germany was like, what if we use poisonous gases to, you know, kind of drive the enemy out? That really, it worked at first, but it really didn't do anything big for them. It didn't gain them an advantage, really. And the Allies tried massive attacks too, but they literally only led to, like, a lot of deaths. Like, we're talking a few thousand per battle. They only led to, like, massive deaths and, like, no progress whatsoever. And on the Eastern Front, though, things were overall just, like, way more active. Shit was actually going down. Germany and Austria-Hungary launched this massive offensive in May and forced Russia to, like, just get out of there. And the thing that sucks is it ended in disaster, right? Which was pretty much just due to poor planning and the strong Ottoman resistance. It just led to massive losses. Allies had to retreat. It was just kind of a shit show. This entire war was a shit show, but, you know. And in May of 1915, right, Italy entered the war on the Allies' side, hoping to gain territory, and they were fighting along the Italian front, which is literally just, it's pretty much where the border is, where the Italian border is nowadays. It was pretty much just a series of failed attempts just because of like mountainous terrain. They couldn't get over it, right? That just made it a hell of a lot harder for them. And by the end of 1915, the war was massive, right? It was even bigger than it was when it first, like erupted. It was like a fucking volcano. Like, shit came out of nowhere and boom. It was deadlier than ever. Germany was throwing poison gas everywhere, and everyone was like, hey, we're gonna do that too. So that was like the new norm, pretty much, with 1915, summarizing it. And just shit like that was making it like just even worse. But nobody was close to actually winning the battle. That summarizes the entirety of chapter 2. It was so basic, so simple. No massive events happened. Okay, chapter 3, right? You'll hear people say a lot, like, dark times of war, shit like that. You probably won't hear people say it a lot. I don't even know if I've ever heard someone say that. I might have just made that term up. I don't know. Basically, this was the dark time of war, though. This is when pretty much it was bloodshed, just raining blood, raining. Motherfucker. Okay, after that mishap, we're back. I don't know how to speak. It was raining blood at this point. It was hell on earth, pretty much, right? 1916 was all about pretty much just getting each other, as ground down as possible, as worn out, as tired as possible. And two of the war's like most infamous battles, right? It's the Battle of Verdun, the Battle of Somme, I think, or something like that. I don't know. I'll put it up on screen. You can criticize me for it later. Germany wanted to literally just make sure that France was like no more. In their quotes, Germany wanted to bleed France dry. And pretty much the biggest event that happened during the Battle of Verdun was Germany just attacked some big ass fortress that France was using pretty much as like a primary fortress, essentially. And Verdun lasted for nearly a year, which is insane for a battle that, for a war that lasted for 4 years. The Battle of Verdun essentially became a key symbol of how like determined France was for this war and how determined they were to get shit done. And I mean, both sides did. I don't know how to say this without seeming like I'm ignorant as hell, but both sides did an extremely good job. They both held on really well, but in the end, both sides lost hundreds of thousands of people in the war. The Battle of Somme or whatever started in July, right? July 1916. And it was an Allied attempt to take pressure off of Verdun, which, as I think I just described very terribly, Verdun was a fucking huge battle, alright? On the first day, Britain decided, they were like, let's fucking go. And they lost almost 60,000 people. 60,000 soldiers, I should mind. And literally over months and months of fighting, the Allies gained like a couple of miles at best. And both sides lost over 1 million soldiers. Which is, that's fucking ridiculous for a battle that was just raging in Europe at the time. And keep in mind, technically it was a global battle since Japan was already in the war, but, on the Eastern Front, Russia was still trying to go strong. Russia launched a massive attack called the Brusilov Offensive. I don't really know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. I'm just a fucking American. What can I say? They made progress against Austria-Hungary, but really couldn't win. And at that point, Austria-Hungary had become so dependent on Germany, they couldn't really fight their own battles without Germany having to butt in and like actually help them out here. And outside of Europe, this is when it really got global. From this point on, this is when it was global. In the Middle East and in Africa and in Mesopotamia, British forces were defeated, quite a lot. And at sea, naval battle at this point, the British and Germans decided, they were like, yeah, let's duke this out over the sea. And it was the Battle of Jutland, which is the world's biggest, not the world's biggest, my bad, the war's biggest naval battle. It was a draw, but knowing the British, they kind of stayed dominant. They were like, we won. And by the end of 1916, millions upon millions of soldiers were dead, and the war was still at a extremely brutal stalemate. It really wasn't coming to an end up until 2 years later, but it wasn't. At this point, everyone foresaw it as just a war that wasn't gonna end, and that's what sucks. Okay, so I did a take already, but I was stuttering words and I was slurring words the entire time. I'm not a fan of it. So anyways, we're on to chapter 4, which is pretty much 1917, 1918, and a minor bit of 1919, specifically because of the Treaty of Versailles. We're just gonna start right off. In 1917, everyone was exhausted. Like, nobody wanted to fight in the war anymore. Everyone was kind of just like, fuck this, which is, really understandable. And it was pushing it to the point where, entire governments were on edge, and they were really close to just, completely crumbling, which is, I mean, if you know anything about, countries that have fallen in the past, that's not a good thing. That's a pretty bad thing. And Germany did this, funny little thing where they started to use unrestricted submarine warfare, which they call them U-boats. That's technically what they're called. But they would pretty much just go around. I forget what the the little portion of water is called that's right next to, it's right in between, the main continent of Europe and the United Kingdom. But they would go around there and pretty much just terrorize the British. They would sink British ships without warning, essentially trying to starve the British of power. And, there was really no avail to that. Nobody really won that part. And around this time, too, the Zimmermann telegram, which was essentially Germany decided to, you can imagine it like this, right? Germany pulled out their new to them iPhone 10 and was like, you know what, let's text Mexico, let's see if they can, do some shit about America. So they sent this telegram over to Mexico, right? They were like, hey, if you attack the US, we'll ally with you, we'll support you, just come join us. And that pushed the United States into war in April of 1917. And the US brought troops and resources into Europe, which gave the Allies just this massive boost, right? And in Russia at the time, shit was still hitting the fan. It wasn't anything, that hasn't happened before, really. I mean, the Tsar got overthrown during the February Revolution, and by November, I'm not going to pronounce this. I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm sorry. I'm going to put it up on screen. They took over and made peace with Germany, which just pulled Russia, not Wussia, pulled Russia completely out of the war, right? The Allies on the Western Front, they were having mixed results at the time. The French suffered mutiny after mutiny, and it was just failed offensive after failed offensive, and the British were going through some really rough shit because weather in Europe around fall and winter is horrid. It's wet, it's snowy, it's cold, it's all of that. And the British had to go through that for months on end, and guess what? I mean, it's not really a surprise, but they didn't gain really any ground. And in 1918, this was like right around start of 1918, Germany launched a massive, desperate spring offensive, pretty much trying to win the war overall. And American troops pretty much just said that's not happening. Arrived. They were in full force. They were determined to get down with the shit. And everything worked well for Germany at first, but eventually it all just came just crumbling down before them. The Allies hit with the 100 Days Offensive, which is it's a big thing. I'm not going to explain it here, but it pushed the Germans completely out of France. They had to get the fuck out of there, else, shit would hit the fan. And Germany was falling apart in their actual country, not just with their entire army and all that. Germany was falling apart in their country too. Their leader, Kaiser Wilhelm, abdicated. And on November 11th, 1918, which is when pretty much everyone says the war ended, Germany signed an armistice, which just ended the war completely. And the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 officially ended the war, punishing Germany extremely harshly, redrawing borders across all of Europe, trying to, prevent future conflict. And at this point, the world could get a nice little break for the next, what was it? It was just about 10 years before World War II broke out, and that's a whole nother video that I'm going to make very, very soon. And this was history, I guess. This was World War I, explained by a high schooler. Hope you learned something. If you didn't, doesn't matter. Go watch something better than this. You knew what you were clicking on. I've decided to add in a quick little editor's note here. That video was a pain in the ass to make. I'm fucking exhausted after that. I've been editing it for 4 hours, which I know shouldn't take that long for a 30-minute video, but trust me. I know damn well nobody's gonna fucking see this video, but to whoever watches it in the future, or watches it when it comes out or whatever, fucking subscribe or something, please. I'm begging you. This shit was so tiring to make.